Well, I got around to watching Jaws 3D. As with the previous two movies, two of my friends decided to come over and we were like, let's watch the third movie, Jaws 3D. The 80s this time. The first one in the 80s. First one was 75, second one was 78. This one's in 83, and it's in 3D. Copied Amityville 3D, copied Friday the 13th 3D, which came out the year before. And Friday the 13th Part 3 in 3D is actually one of my favorite movies. I got the poster right there. And so, it's a fan favorite movie. Is this a fan favorite movie? Fuck no. This movie sucks. Yeah, Jaws 3D was bad. Jaws, the original, was great. The second one was a pretty mediocre kind of retread of the first one. The third one, I will say the one thing I can give it over the second movie is that it actually is kind of a unique and somewhat of a compelling story. But I don't know. To me, the aura behind Jaws is that it's this big, great, big, great, powerful white shark, or great white shark, and in this movie, and at least with the last one as well, there's just random sharks that kind of inexplicably come about. Right? They're not these notorious, infamous Bruce shark that we have from the original, right? Like, because Bruce dies in the beginning, or the end of the first movie, right? He gets blown the fuck up. Second movie, whoever the fuck Bruce is, his son maybe, or his daughter, I guess it'd be a daughter, but Bruce is a guy, so what the fuck? Steven Spielberg did not have any sequels in mind, so the integrity and the continuity is already fucked. But, like, the second one gets electrocuted, right? And then in this one, he gets, like, blown up by a grenade at the end. It's crazy. It is in 3D, right? So that's fun. And there were a few parts that maybe in 3D would be kind of cool. We got my boy Dennis Quaid, the fat, disgusting pig, or whatever the hell the mean tweet from Jimmy Kimmel said about him. He's fine. I will say, there weren't really any memorable characters in this movie, to be honest. I mean, I guess you have the black dude who basically is a slightly more likable mayor of Amity type character. He's a little more assertive when it comes to the shark taking over SeaWorld, but at the end of the day, he still wants to make a lot of money and still, kind of sacrifices the safety of his guests, as opposed to, yeah, he cares more about the money than the safety of his guests, but he's not quite as bad. He's not nearly as ruthless as the mayor in the first two movies. But there's no recurring characters in this movie at all. I don't think there might be a cameo or something, but no. I mean, there's no Chief Brody, there's no Chief Brody's wife, and there's no mayor. Right? That was the first two movies. They had those three characters in both of them, and then in this movie we get. I think his name's Mike Brody, which is played by Dennis Quaid, handsome little lad, the Soul Surfer himself, the dad from Parent Trap. And I mean, he's okay, but I don't know. I just felt like the dialogue. There's a ton of dialogue in this movie. There's very little action. It's super fucking boring, and the dialogue itself is super goddamn boring. Like, I had closed captions off for about the first 25 minutes. And then I turned it on, and even then, like, and granted, I was watching this with two friends, and we were, making jokes and or commenting throughout the movie a lot. But I don't know, dude. I just the dialogue and just the interactions between the characters was just so goddamn disinteresting. Like, oh my god, yeah. For once, you actually had a scene where you had a couple going out late at night into the water, right? Where Jaws is there. The first movie, that's how it starts. In the second movie, there's another scene where a person gets killed. For once, though, in Jaws 3D, they actually don't get killed. They get saved by Dennis Quaid, and he gets tackled, and he gets sand all in his suit. It's funny. But yeah, we also have another character that stood out. Is I believe she is the girlfriend of it's not our boy Mike Brody, but he's one of the big characters. I didn't retain a lot from this movie. I mean, this movie was a slog, but she was Marty McFly's young mom in Back to the Future, right? So when he goes back in time to when his mother and his father were in high school, his mother in high school is in Jaws 3D. I don't remember her fucking name. I do not. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard to really compare this movie to the first one or even the second one, to be honest, because honestly, looking back, the second one is essentially just not really a remake, but like they tried their best to try and get lightning in a bottle twice, and there's just no way it was going to happen. With this, they had kind of a goofy little premise, and I can't knock them for at least trying something new. I guess I prefer the premise of this movie more than the second one, but I think the execution of the second one was a little bit better, although I don't really think the execution of the second one was all that good, to be honest. A big issue that I had with the second one was just how bad the shark looked. And I mean, it's not much better in Jaws 3D, despite it being like 5 years newer. They shot it in 3D, so they had some desire to make some cool little effects for those who are watching in the theaters. And I mean, the movie was a box office hit. All of the Jaws movies, I don't know about the fourth one, but I know the first three were massive successes in the box office. Like the first two were incredibly lucrative. And despite the second one not being very good and the third one being terribly received by critics, it still made a fuck ton of money. And so, they definitely had some goofy scenes going on, with the severed arm floating in, and then the classic scene of the very end with that shark that's clearly on like a projector screen. It looks terrible. It looks awful. And he busts through the glass. That shit is so ridiculous. It's so corny. It's so fucking bad. But, it just is enough. It just grazes that so bad it's good, because it was pretty fucking funny, right? And like, one thing that pisses me off with the Jaws movies up until now, and even a little bit in this movie, is like, the shark is around, and there's like a big group of people all piled together, and like, the shark's about to pounce, and the shark does attack them. It doesn't kill. If the shark kills one person in that group of 20 people that are bunched up swimming or whatever in the water, it's a rarity. Like, it happens so many times where either the dolphins of all things would like save the people in the water, or like this big giant shark would go up and like bite somebody's leg and like get a gash, and then everybody else would run away and nobody would die. Like, I was like, what the hell? Like the scene where in the third one, when they're on the beach and the girl's leg gets like bit, that shit came off. I remember we were like, when it happened, right? Because there's that, the classic big mist of blood in the water, and like I talked about how I really like that effect. I don't know, it's just kind of gruesome to me. But then like when they take her to the shore, she just has like a big gash on her fucking thigh, and I'm like, what? Like, how the hell does that even happen? What was the shark just like take his tooth and just rub it against her like on his like fins or something? Like, are they really that sharp? Like, no, he ripped your fucking leg off. But yeah, no. I'm trying to think. The things that I did like the most, the characters were fucking boring. The dialogue was fucking boring. The movie itself was super fucking boring. Nothing happened for the first like 30 minutes or so. I could not sit through this by myself. I don't think I could do it. Luckily, I had two friends of mine that were kind of interested in, the movie, because we had watched the other two before together. So that was nice. But man, the shark looks just as bad as it's looked in the other two. You had the baby shark or whatever, the smaller one, which was fine. That one looked normal, and I think it's because they actually used a real shark. But then once we had the big great white come in, and all of its just rubbery animatronic glory, I mean, ugh. It had the budget too. That's the crazy thing, Like, this movie had a top-notch budget, as the previous two movies did, but I guess just in the early 80s, they really didn't have the CGI. They tried with the 3D, and it is dated horribly. But even still, I mean, that shark is as gangly as ever. And like, I noticed that something we picked up on is, in order to try and emulate the shark's speed in the water, they would just show they would like speed up the footage of the shark swimming in the water to make it look like it was going faster than it actually was. Like it was bad, dude. It was bad. This movie is bad. This movie is bad. I'm really kind of terrified to watch the fourth one. We're gonna watch it, right? We're gonna watch the fourth one, but the third one had some elements of so bad it's good. The ending is pretty entertaining. The ending is pretty entertaining. Whenever the shark does blow up, and there's like those, honestly, kind of ahead of its time, little CGI shark guts. I got to admit, like that's some shit you'd see from a sci-fi movie from 2003, not a horror movie from 1983. So I will say, when it comes to the goofy, horribly aged, shark guts, it looks like it's from 2003, not 1983. So I guess I can give them that. But yeah, man, I don't know. The dolphins were kind of cool, I guess, and I kind of like some of the SeaWorld aspects. It was kind of a fun little switch up because the Amity shtick was kind of running a little thin. I don't know where the fuck the shark came from. I mean, because last I checked, Amity was like on the coast of like Massachusetts or some shit, like up in New England, and SeaWorld is in like Orlando, I think, or Tampa Bay. So I don't fucking know. And I think the fourth one takes place in Hawaii. So like this man, I don't know if he went through like the Panama Canal or if he just circled all the way around under South America to the West Coast. But God, this was hard to sit through. I would not recommend this to a horror movie fan because Jaws is a horror movie, I think, but it's more of like an action movie. It's not really a horror movie, but it's kind of labeled as one. It's still PG, right? So but I don't think I'd recommend this to anybody unless they really really wanted to watch the Jaws series as a whole, right? And that's exactly what I'm doing. That's the only reason you need to watch this movie, because you can't watch it in 3D because it's a 1980s 3D movie, so you have to have it's the blue and red starburst grossness that I don't think you can actually appreciate. Maybe you can with the TV. I don't know. I always wonder. I think you can watch Friday the 13th 3 in 3D, and I think it's the same kind of 3D technology because it was literally made the next year. But I didn't watch it in 3D. And honestly, the 3D skits, there's the harpoon gun, which looks kind of cool. And I imagine in the theaters watching the fucking stupid shark bust through the glass. Maybe that would be kind of cool, but it looks cheesy as hell in 2D. It looks terrible. It sucked. It was bad. I think if you really want to watch a cheesy shark movie, there are plenty other Sharknadoes and just like other killer whale shark, whatever the fuck, Orca I think is a movie. There are plenty of other sea monster movies that you can watch that are worse and better than this. Yeah, straight up. I wouldn't really recommend this to anybody unless you want to watch all of the Jaws movies. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a 1.5 out of 5. I'll give it that half star just because it had some so bad it's good elements. I think I'd probably be called crazy if I said that I preferred this movie over Carnival of Souls, but I don't know, that Carnival of Souls really had very little redeeming qualities, and this movie doesn't really have any redeeming qualities either, and the fact that like it's kind of entertaining and it's kind of fun to watch with friends, but that's about it. I don't know. Jaws 3D is pretty fucking trash, and it's a fucking mess, and I'm actually kind of terrified because I'm pretty sure that Jaws Revenge is just as bad, just as boring, with a unoriginal and retreaded out premise. And there's no SeaWorld, and there's no dolphins, and there's no Dennis Quaid, and there's no 3D gimmicks. 1.5 out of 5. Not good.